Welcome back to another journey into Asian folklore horror. Tonight, we're heading to Korea, a land where Han, the uniquely Korean concept of deep, unresolved resentment, can bind a soul to this world long after death. I'm talking about the Cheonyeo Gwishin, the virgin ghost, a woman who died unmarried, often violently or unjustly, and whose rage and sorrow prevent her from moving on. What I'm about to share happened in Seoul at Gyeongbokgung Palace, where a security guard's night shift turned into an encounter with a bride who has been waiting over 300 years. Stick around until the end, because I'll explain why these virgin ghosts are so deeply feared in Korean culture. Gyeongbokgung Palace sits in central Seoul, a massive complex built in 1395. It's beautiful during the day, but at night, when the crowds leave, something changes. The air gets heavier, the shadows grow longer. Our narrator, let's call him Min-seok, was a 31-year-old security guard working the midnight shift. The work was easy, walking patrols, checking doors, making sure no one had hidden after closing. In traditional Korean belief, a woman who dies unmarried, especially if she dies young or violently, cannot move on. She becomes trapped, her Han tethering her soul to the living world. The Cheonyeo Gwishin appears as a young woman in a white hanbok, seeking what was denied to her: marriage, love, acknowledgement. During the Joseon dynasty, if a woman died before marriage, elaborate ghost marriages were sometimes performed to give both spirits peace. Without such rituals, her spirit would wander forever. Min-seok knew the stories. Everyone who worked at the palace did. There were rumors of a ghost in the old servants' quarters, but nobody took it seriously. The first oddity happened on a Tuesday night in late October. Seok was doing his rounds through the western section. It was cold, and his breath misted in the air. He passed by the quarters where court ladies once lived. The buildings were locked tight. As he walked past, he heard singing, soft, feminine, a traditional Korean melody, beautiful but sad. Hello? Palace is closed. The singing stopped. He tried the door. Locked. He shone his flashlight through the windows. Empty. 2 nights later, it happened again. Around 1:30 a.m., motion sensors triggered. When he arrived, the door, the one that had been locked, was open, wide open. The room looked normal, but it was freezing, and there was a smell, floral, like old-fashioned perfume. Hello? This area is restricted. No answer. He swept his flashlight across the room. On the far wall, hanging from a peg, was a hanbok, a woman's white hanbok. But it hadn't been there before. He knew this room. There was no hanbok display here, and it was swaying, gently, like someone had just brushed past it. But there was no breeze. As he backed toward the door, the singing started again, right behind him, close enough that he felt cold breath on his neck. He spun around. Nothing. But the singing continued, echoing, and now he could make out the words. Old Korean dialect, something about a wedding, about a groom who never came. Min-seok ran. Escalation came the following week. As he passed the servant quarters, he heard crying, deep, racking sobs that sounded like they were being torn from someone's soul. "Okay?" he called out. The crying stopped. Then, a voice. "Why didn't he come?" Min-seok froze. The voice was right next to him. He turned slowly. She was standing there. A woman, young, maybe 20. Pale skin that almost glowed, long black hair loose around her shoulders. She wore the white hanbok. Her face was beautiful, but wrong. Her eyes were too dark, pupils so dilated there was no white visible. Why didn't he come? I waited so long. Who are you? She tilted her head. I was to be married. Spring 1704. He was a scholar, but the night before the wedding, I was found in the garden. They said I shamed my family. They said I had been with him before the marriage. It wasn't true, but no one believed me. Over 300 years ago, they locked me in these quarters, alone. No food, no water. I waited for him to come, to defend me, but he never came. And I died here, alone, in shame, without a marriage. She looked down at her hands. They were translucent, fading like smoke. Min-seok felt tears on his cheeks. I'm so sorry. She looked up. For a moment, her eyes cleared. She looked almost human. Will you marry me? Every instinct screamed at him to run. He knew the stories. If you accepted, she would bind you to her. You would die, trapped forever. I can't, he said, his voice cracking. But I'll help you. I'll find a monk. We'll perform a proper ritual, a ghost marriage. You'll have peace, I promise. She stared at him, and then she smiled, the saddest smile he'd ever seen. You promise? I promise. She reached out, and her hand, cold as ice, insubstantial as mist, touched his cheek. Thank you, she whispered, and then she was gone. Min-seok kept his promise. He contacted a Buddhist monk. Together with a shaman, they performed a ghost marriage ceremony at the palace. They married the spirit to a symbolic groom, giving her the honor she'd been denied. The ceremony was performed on a cold November morning. Offerings were made, prayers were chanted, and when it was done, Min-seok felt a lightness, like a weight had been lifted. Never saw her again. The singing stopped. The western quarters felt peaceful. Sometimes, on quiet nights, he catches the scent of chrysanthemums and jasmine, but it doesn't frighten him anymore. He thinks she found peace. That somewhere, she finally got the wedding she deserved. In Korean culture, Han is a profound concept. Sorrow, resentment, and injustice that goes unresolved. During the Joseon dynasty, family honor was paramount, and an unmarried daughter's death was deeply shameful. Ghost marriages are occasionally still performed to give peace to restless spirits. What do you think? Did Min-seok truly help a spirit find peace? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia. But not all Cheonyeo Gwishin seek peace. Some seek revenge. Our next story takes us to Busan, where a student learned that some ghosts don't want help. They want company. We're staying in Korea, but moving to Busan. The Cheonyeo Gwishin doesn't only haunt historical sites. Sometimes she appears in schools. What happened at Haeundae Girls High in 2018 started as a typical ghost story, but ended with tragedy. After this, I'll explain why Korean students carry protective amulets. Haeundae Girls High School sits on a hillside overlooking Busan's beach district. The building is modern, built in 2005, but the land it was built on has a dark history. Before the school was constructed, the site was occupied by an old bathhouse that burned down in 1997. 3 people died. One was 19-year-old Park Ji-hae, working the night shift. She was trapped in the women's changing room. She was engaged to be married that summer. Our narrator, let's call her Soo-jin, was a 17-year-old junior in 2018. She didn't believe in ghosts, but that changed. In Korea, school bathrooms are notorious for paranormal activity. Stories of ghosts in mirrors, voices calling names. Many involve Cheonyeo Gwishin, who died near school grounds. Students avoid certain bathrooms. At Haeundae Girls High, the haunted bathroom was on the 3rd floor. Most students avoided it, but Soo-jin was new that semester, transferred from Daegu. The first oddity happened on a Wednesday in March. Seen stayed late for tutoring. By 7 p.m., the school was quiet. She needed the bathroom, so she went to the nearest one, 3rd floor. It clean, modern, white tiles. She washed her hands and noticed the mirror was fogged in patches. She wiped the fog. In the cleared space, there were letters, smudged, like someone had written with their finger. Dowajo, help me. She looked around. Empty. All stalls were open. She was alone. This isn't funny. No response. She grabbed her bag and left quickly. Her friend Minji pulled her aside. You used the 3rd floor bathroom yesterday, didn't you? Soo-jin, you can't use that bathroom. That bathroom is haunted. A girl died there, in a fire. She was supposed to get married. Now she looks for company. That's ridiculous. 2 years ago, Kim Hae-won disappeared. Last seen going into that bathroom. They found her 3 days later. Dead. Heart attack. She was 17. Just don't use it. The second oddity came a week later. Soo-jin was in a rush. The 1st floor bathroom had a huge line. Before she could think, she was on the 3rd floor. The bathroom seemed fine. She used the stall, washed her hands. The lights flickered. And then she heard it. A voice. Soft. Female. Soo-jin-ah. Her name, with the informal suffix like a friend. She turned. All the stall doors were now closed. She knew they'd been open. Soo-jin-ah, why won't you help me? The voice was closer, coming from the middle stall. Who are you? Just want to leave, but I can't. Not alone. The middle stall door began to open, slowly. Soo-jin ran. Buzzed, unknown number. 왜 가버렸어? Why did you leave? She didn't respond. Another message. 외로워. I'm so lonely. Then another. 너도 같이 있어줘. 영원히. Stay with me. Forever. Soo-jin threw her phone across the room. She woke to her mother shaking her. Why is your window open? Soo-jin sat up. Her window was wide open. I didn't open it. She was on the 4th floor, and her window didn't open from the outside. That afternoon, Soo-jin and Minji went to Minji's aunt, a mudong, a shaman. She's chosen you, the mudong said, to accompany her. The Cheonyeo Gwishin died alone, without completing her destiny. She's trapped. She wants someone to share her fate. Stop her. Gave her a protective pouch. Wear this, and you must perform a ritual. Tomorrow night, at the school, in that bathroom. A severance. You'll cut the connection. The next night, they returned to the school. At 11 p.m., they entered the 3rd floor bathroom. The bathroom was freezing. The lights flickered. There was a smell, perfume mixed with something burnt. The mudong began chanting. She lit candles, placed talismans on the mirrors. And then the stalls began to shake, all of them, banging back and forth. Water poured from the sinks. Don't break the circle, the mudong shouted. She appeared, in the mirror. A young woman in a white hanbok, hair wild, face pale and furious. Her eyes were black pits. Her mouth opened in a soundless scream. She pointed at Soo-jin and lunged. The mirror cracked. The mudong threw rice wine, shouting prayers. The ghost recoiled. Cut your palm. 3 drops of blood on the floor. Now! Soo-jin pressed a blade to her palm and let 3 drops fall. Mudong mixed the blood with ash and rice wine, smearing it across the broken mirror. I sever this connection. Blood given freely, debt paid. Go to your rest. Your Han is acknowledged. The ghost so loud, Soo-jin thought her eardrums would burst. The lights exploded. Darkness, lit only by candles. Kevin, and then silence. Backup lights came on, the bathroom was still. The mirror was shattered, but empty. Condemned for ending. The school sealed off the bathroom. Doctors said it was a stroke, incredibly rare for her age. She survived, but never fully recovered. Her memory is fragmented, and sometimes nurses hear her talking to someone who isn't there, asking someone to please leave her alone. The Mudang told Minji the severance had worked, but not completely. The ghost had released Soo-jin, but took something, a piece of her, a price for freedom. In Korean culture, schools and ghosts are deeply connected. Many schools were built on sites of trauma. The Cheonyeo Gwishin is particularly associated with schools because young women who died before marriage have the strongest Han. Protective amulets are commonly carried by students. Could Soo-jin's stroke have been purely medical? The doctors found no cause, but the timing haunts those who know the story. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia. But sometimes, the Cheonyeo Gwishin doesn't wait for you. Sometimes, she comes looking. Our final story takes us to a mountain village where a photographer learned that some jobs should never be accepted. We've explored how these ghosts haunt palaces and schools, but now we're venturing into rural Korea, where old traditions still hold power. This story comes from a testimony given in 2020. The photographer has since quit his profession and refuses to elaborate. Our narrator, let's call him Jae-hyun, was a 29-year-old freelance photographer based in Chuncheon. He took almost any job. In late November 2019, he received an unusual email. A family in a mountain village needed a photographer for a wedding, traditional Joseon dynasty style. The pay was generous, 3 times his usual rate. He accepted. The village was called Samseong-ri, deep in the Taebaek Mountains. It was tiny, maybe 15 traditional hanbok houses. It looked frozen in time. An elderly man, the bride's uncle, greeted him formally. The ceremony is tomorrow at sunset. You'll photograph everything. It's very important that you capture her face clearly. Can I meet the bride beforehand? The uncle's expression darkened. No, don't wander the village tonight. Stay inside. Jae-hyun heard singing. A woman's voice, mournful, singing a folk song. He looked out the window. Near the tree line, a figure. A woman in a white hanbok, walking between houses. But she wasn't walking on the ground. She was floating, hovering above the snow, leaving no footprints. When he looked again, she was gone. The next day, preparations began, but something was off. The villagers were silent, mechanical. No laughter. It felt more like a funeral. Unauthorized, the uncle came. It's time. The groom was there, a young man, pale and thin, looking terrified. Jae-hyun set up his camera. The bride appeared, carried in on a palanquin. She stepped out. Beautiful. Pale skin, elaborate hanbok in white and red, but her movements were too slow, and her eyes completely black. No whites. Jae-hyun started shooting. The ceremony began. Traditional bows, exchange of geese, sharing of wine. The bride never spoke, never smiled, just moved like a puppet. And the groom was crying, silent tears. Jaehyun snapped a photo. He saw something that made his blood freeze. The bride's reflection in the brass cup was wrong. It wasn't her face. It was a skull. Rotted, empty eye sockets. He lowered the camera. When he looked directly, she was normal again. Delivered at nightfall, the uncle approached. "You have what you need?" "Yes." "Good. Develop the photos tonight. We need them by morning." "Tonight? I need a dark room." "We have everything prepared." The uncle led him to a building with a fully equipped dark room. "Work quickly." Jaehyun began developing the film. The first photos seemed normal, but when he developed the bride's photos, he noticed something. In every single photo, she was wrong. In some, her face was a skull. In others, her body was translucent. In one, her hanbok was rotted and burnt. In the final photo, her hand on the groom's wrist was skeletal, bones wrapped in decaying flesh. The truth crashed over him. This wasn't a wedding. This was a ghost marriage. The bride was dead, and the living groom had just been married to a corpse. Jang grabbed his gear and ran, but the uncle and a dozen villagers blocked his path. "The photos? I can't do this. That bride, she's dead." "Was my niece. She died 15 years ago. A fire. She was to be married the next month. Our family has suffered ever since. Bad luck, sickness. We found a match, a living man willing to marry her to give her peace." Willing? He was terrified. "He was paid. Generously. I'm leaving. You haven't finished your job. The photos. We need them for the altar. You were hired. You will finish." Jaehyun had no choice. He was outnumbered, in the middle of nowhere. He went back and finished. He printed the photos, hands shaking, and handed them to the uncle. "You're free to go. At dawn." Spent the night locked in the guest house, listening to sounds outside, singing, crying, laughter that didn't sound human. Jaehyun made it back, but he wasn't the same. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. A week later, he received a package. Inside was a photo he didn't remember taking. It showed the bride and groom. But there was a third figure, behind them, translucent. It was Jaehyun, his own face, pale and ghostly, as if he'd been part of the ceremony, as if he'd been marked. He burned the photo. He burned all his equipment. He quit photography that day. But sometimes, when he looks in mirrors, he sees her, the bride, standing behind him, just for a second. Still alive, but he's changed. Friends say he look away. Make-peak marriages are real. In Korea, families sometimes perform posthumous marriages to appease restless spirits. There are rare, disturbing accounts of living men being paid to marry ghosts, usually in extremely isolated communities. The practice is illegal now, but in remote villages, who knows what still happens. Photographs that capture spirits are believed cursed in Korean belief. Images trap part of the photographer's soul, creating a connection. This is why many Koreans are superstitious about photos at funerals or haunted locations. Could it have been an elaborate hoax? Perhaps. But Jaehyun's terror was real, and destroying his entire career suggests he saw something that fundamentally broke him. What do you think happened? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia. Jusha 3 stories, 3 encounters, 1 curse. Chae-shin doesn't forget, she doesn't forgive, and she never stops searching for what she was denied. Korea, they say the most dangerous ghost isn't the one who wants to harm you, it's the one who wants to love you. Sleep well tonight, and if you see a woman in white with black eyes and a sad smile asking you to stay with her forever, run.